It was nothing elaborate, just a slab of cedar I'd shaped with my own hands one humid August evening, the kind where the air sticks to your skin and the cicadas scream like sirens. I sealed it twice against the Georgia rain, then painted the letters in thick, glossy black, dangerous curve ahead, slow down. I planted it 3 feet off the ditch where Margaret's silver Camry had flipped end over end 7 summers earlier, the scar still visible in the kudzu if you knew where to look. The county road hooked sharp and blind right in front of our split-level ranch on Red Pine, a nasty S-bend locals called the Devil's Elbow. When the pavement was what it turned into a skating rink, when it was dry, the late afternoon sun glared off the asphalt and hid the turn until you were already committed. The county had never posted a sign. Budget, they said. No fatalities on record, they said, until Margaret. She'd pulled a double at Grady Memorial, 12 hours on her feet in the ER, then drove home through a midnight downpour. The report said hydroplaning, overcorrection, rollover. I didn't need the report. I'd stood in that ditch at 2:17 a.m. while deputies measured skid marks with a rolling tape and the coroner zipped a black bag. I'd watched near misses for years, UPS trucks locking brakes, teenagers in lifted pickups fishtailing, a school bus once sliding sideways until the driver wrestled it straight. My stomach learned to drop on cue. So I built the sign. Lucas, 10 years old and already too quiet, held the mag light while I dug the hole 2 feet deep with a post-hole digger that bit like a gator. We mixed Quikrete in a wheelbarrow under a sky the color of dried blood. The post slid in with a wet suck. Lucas steadied it while I tamped the concrete with the handle of a claw hammer. We didn't speak. Words felt too small. The sign wasn't just caution. It was a headstone, love hammered into cedar, grief given edges. For 7 years, it stood untouched. Neighbors slowed without thinking. The Amazon driver started waving like we were old friends. A retired Marine down the block left a 6-pack of sweet water on my porch with a note. You probably saved my granddaughter last week. It gave me a thin, fragile piece, the kind you guard like a nightlight in a child's room. Then the HOA arrived like frost in July. When we bought the place in 2009, our lot sat just outside the Willow Ridge Estate's boundary, grandfathered in, no covenants, no architectural review board breathing down our necks. New subdivisions sprouted like mushrooms after rain. Surveyors in orange vests redrew the plat maps. One Tuesday the mailbox held a glossy brochure, Welcome to Willow Ridge, Phase 4 Expansion. By Friday we were inside the lines without a single vote cast in our names. They spoke of unifying aesthetics, preserving property values, visual continuity. I heard the click of a gate locking behind me. The first letter came in April, crisp ivory envelope, silver oak leaf embossed on midnight blue. Regulation 7.3b, unauthorized signage visible from public roadway. Remove within 14 days or face escalating penalties. I called the listed number, got voicemail with elevator music. I emailed, got an auto reply. Your message is important to us. I waited through an hour and a half of the next board meeting. Pool access codes, a woman furious about Valentine's wreaths still up in March, before they let me speak. I laid out 8x10 glossies. Margaret's car accordioned against a pine, the coroner's timestamp, the empty curve yawning like a mouth. Evelyn Harper, board president, folded her manicured hands and offered sympathy smooth as laminate. We're truly sorry for your loss, but standards are standards. Otherwise exceptions for everyone. Treasurer Roger Caldwell leaned back, gold pinky ring catching the fluorescent light. Besides, no other wrecks, correct? The vote was 5-0. The gavel sounded like a coffin lid. I appealed with everything I had. National Weather Service rainfall data for the night Margaret died. A curve radius study I paid a retired DOT engineer to run. 63 neighbor signatures on a legal pad. An email from the County Traffic Division dated 2018 admitting the elbow was above average risk, but not prioritized due to fiscal constraints. Appeal denied. Final notice. Remove by June 3rd, or HOA maintenance crews will execute removal and assess costs to the property ledger. I pictured chaining myself to the post, calling Channel 2 Action News, filing a temporary restraining order. Pride is a stubborn thing, but so is exhaustion. I did nothing. June 3rd arrived at 9:06 a.m. Sharp. Lucas shouted from the porch swing, where he was pretending to study for finals. 2 white pickups with Willow Ridge decals idled on the shoulder, hazard lights blinking like nervous eyes. 2 men in reflective vests, one already swinging a pry bar. I ran out barefoot. The dew-wet grass stung like ice. The post cracked with a gunshot pop. Concrete dust mushroomed. The sign arced through the air and landed in the truck bed with a hollow thud, paint side down. Where are you taking it? I asked. The taller worker glanced at his clipboard, shrugged, climbed behind the wheel. They pulled away without a word. 5 minutes later the valley filled with a sound I'll carry to my grave. Tires howling, a horn blaring too late, then the wet crunch of steel folding into steel. Lucas and I turned in unison. Smoke curled above the treetops, just past the curve. A white Willow Ridge security SUV had T-boned a black unmarked Dodge Charger. The SUV's front end looked like God had punched it. The Charger sat half in the ditch, airbags blooming like surrender flags. Someone screamed. A woman ran from her mailbox in curlers and a housecoat. I smelled gasoline and hot rubber. Sirens converged within 10 minutes. Sheriff's cruisers, a ladder truck, 2 ambulances, another HOA security vehicle trying to look official. Evelyn Harper arrived in a black BMW 5 Series, patent heels clicking on gravel, HOA badge swinging like a hypnotist's watch. She didn't glance at me. She was too busy assessing damage to her fleet. The security driver, a kid named Tyler with a fresh community college haircut, clutched his shoulder and swore through clenched teeth. The Charger driver, an undercover state trooper named Captain Harold Brooks, lay half out of the vehicle, neck in a rigid brace, blood threading down his temple. EMTs moved like choreographed ghosts. Evelyn finally approached, voice low and lethal. "Did you witness the incident?" "I heard it," I said. "Right after your crew removed the only warning on that bend." Her eyes narrowed to slits. "You're not seriously suggesting?" "I'm suggesting exactly that." The deputy taking statements was young, freckled, polite. I gave him the timeline. Sign removed 9:11 a.m., collision 9:16 a.m. He wrote it down without comment. Evelyn spent the rest of the morning in hushed conference with Roger near the wrecked SUV. Tyler was loaded into an ambulance with a suspected collarbone fracture. Captain Brooks went in the second rig, conscious but gray. By 6:17 a.m. The next day, the HOA blasted an email to every resident. "We regret to inform the community of a vehicular incident involving valued security personnel. An unauthorized road sign previously erected by a homeowner may have contributed to driver confusion. Said sign violated Regulation 7.3b and was removed in accordance with policy. Private signage near public roadways presents liability risks and visual dissonance. The HOA remains committed to safety through approved channels. No mention of 7 accident-free years. No mention of Margaret. Just bureaucratic origami folding blame onto me." Lucas read over my shoulder. "They're trying to pin it on you." "They can try," I said. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me. Roger showed up at 10:42 a.m. with a clipboard and a smile that belonged on a used car lot. "Just need your signature acknowledging removal, Robert. And there's a processing fee, $212.50. I stared until the smile faltered. "You tore down a memorial and billed me for the privilege." "Standards," he said, shifting weight. "Otherwise the whole system collapses. People start painting houses purple, putting plastic flamingos. People start dying." I finished. He left the clipboard on the porch rail and walked away fast. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the garage with the file I'd avoided since the funeral. Accident photos I'd never let Lucas see, skid mark measurements, Margaret's autopsy summary still sealed in plastic. My hands shook opening it. Tucked inside was a letter I'd forgotten. County Traffic Office, 2018, responding to my plea for signage, site assessed. Hazard noted. Funding unavailable. I found the thumb drives next, neighbor dashcam clips, my own time-lapse of the sign catching headlights at 2 a.m., proof it was visible from 300 yards. Lucas wandered in, eyes red. "You okay, Dad?" "I'm remembering what I know," I said. He sat on the concrete beside me. "They're not going to win." "No," I agreed. "They're not." I drove to State Patrol headquarters at dawn, handed the USB to a desk sergeant, asked them to pass it to Captain Brooks. 3 days later, subcontractors in unmarked vans nailed a new compliance notice to the utility pole opposite my driveway. Expansion zone enforcement. Interference may result in citation. They measured my solar path lights, photographed my mailbox, hand-carved by Margaret's father the Christmas before she died. I measured the curve instead, sight lines from both approaches, reaction times at 35 miles per hour, risk models on graph paper. My old mentor Victor Reed, retired State Patrol crash analyst, the man who taught me to read wreckage like tea leaves, spent 6 hours with a drone and a laser level. "Without signage," he said, "drivers have 4 seconds less to brake. 4 seconds is a lifetime." The HOA law firm, Caldwell and Associates, Roger's cousin, naturally, sent a certified letter threatening to sue me for $4,200 in damages to Community Trust. I laughed until I cried. Victor brought Margaret's full reconstruction file from archives. The numbers were brutal: impact angle, velocity, rollover sequence. The sign would have given her 4.3 seconds. She needed 4.1. Then it happened again. June 6, 7:42 p.m. Another Willow Ridge SUV, same reckless arc, same blind rush. This time it struck Sergeant Paul Ellison, Captain Brooks's replacement, head-on. The crash sounded like a transformer exploding. Glass rained in silver sheets. I ran with Lucas, checked pulses, gave statements while neighbors filmed on phones. Paul lived, barely. The HOA issued another statement. Prior signage may have created false expectations of continuity. They issued me a cease and desist. I filed FOIA requests for every crash on Red Pine Road in 10 years. I retained civil engineer Laura Chon, who modeled the curve at 85% above county average risk without warning. I hired pro bono counsel Diane Walsh, who'd sued HOAs into bankruptcy from Savannah to Chattanooga. We built a 68-page package, timelines, drone stills, sworn statements, board minutes from 2023 admitting they knew the danger but deferred to the county, pending funding. I titled it Robert Carter v. Willow Ridge Estates, HOA, Negligence, Retaliation, Malicious Conduct. Channel 9 ran the story at 6 and 10. Neighbors flooded the community app. My son flipped his bike there last winter. Mail carrier, always braked at the Cedar sign. The next board meeting overflowed. Victor live-streamed from the back row with a GoPro. When Evelyn tried to read a prepared denial, Judith Larson, retired principal, voiced like a librarian who'd seen everything, stood. "How many collisions before you stop punishing the man trying to prevent them?" The room erupted. Someone's teenage daughter had needed stitches after a skateboard spill. A widower admitted he'd almost rear-ended a school bus. Diane filed for injunctive relief and froze discretionary HOA spending. Roger showed up at my door, hat in hand, voice trembling. We never thought it would go this far. I reminded him he'd laughed and called my grief a soapbox. He left without another word. The emergency referendum was brutal. 84% voted no confidence in Evelyn. Roger resigned before the count finished. Judith's interim board withdrew every fine against me, funded professional signage, and invited me to chair a citizen road safety committee open to all residents, not just dues payers. Court was brief. Diane projected dashcam footage, drone overlays, Laura's risk models, Paul Ellison's affidavit from his hospital bed. The judge denied the HOA's motion to dismiss. Settlement terms were read aloud. Full legal costs, public apology, permanent county spec signage with a bronze plaque. In memory of Margaret Carter, may her loss keep others safe. All citations rescinded. Independent oversight of future enforcement. 2 weeks later, a flatbed delivered the new sign. Reflective, double-posted, impossible to miss. Workers bolted it exactly where mine had stood. Judith handed me the compliance certificate herself. Lucas poured coffee from a thermos. An elderly neighbor paused, read the plaque, left a single white rose at the base. The committee meets the first Thursday of every month. We walk the streets, log hazards, install crosswalks the HOA once forbade. Judith signs every work order without hesitation. Evelyn moved 3 towns away. Rumor says she's angling for a planning commission seat. Roger sent a handwritten apology. I wrote back, pieces of practice. I already have it. Every morning I drink coffee on the porch and watch drivers ease off the gas at the curve. Lucas rounds it on his walk home from Georgia State, shoulders relaxed. The cedar original hangs framed in the garage, cracked but proud, a quiet reminder that one stubborn heart can bend an entire neighborhood toward decency. What do you think? When bureaucracy chooses rules over lives, is quiet compliance the same as complicity? Have you ever stood alone against a system that forgot people matter more than policy? Drop your story in the comments. I read every one.